This is the Danger Close podcast, Beyond the Books with me, Jack Carr.
Welcome to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. My guest today is my dear friend and SEAL teammate, Mark Owen. Mark is the author of No Easy Day and No Hero. He was involved in the Captain Phillips rescue and in the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. We talk about all of that on a Danger Close podcast series that you can find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and my YouTube channel. He is also an executive producer on the CBS hit show SEAL Team, which is now on Paramount+. And now, without further ado, Mark Owen. There he is. Man, dude, thank you so much for coming back on. And I think, the main reason I have a podcast is just because things are so busy these days. It's a chance to get to catch up with buddies. So, man, it is good to see you.
It's called a twofer.
Oh, so cool.
You get a 2 for 1.
There we go. Man, what's in the background there? What's over your right shoulder? It might all be blurred out, even the background. What is that?
It is, if you know the story behind 30 Seconds Out, Sean Evangelista's company, right, teammate that I worked with, got out, went to some art therapy as he got out, and that was an image, and I don't know if you can see what it is, right? It's the operator bent over, it's got the wings, the halo, he's got a cigarette over a bottle of booze. There's the painting says a lot, and I got it as a gift a few years ago. Sean actually painted it himself, so
that's
pretty cool.
Awesome. That is very cool. Yeah. Does he still have it? Did he sell it, or does he? What did he do with 30 Seconds Out? Is he still?
No. He's still there, right? They're crushing the t-shirt business.
Isn't he also like a mountain guide? Isn't he becoming some like mountain guide or something that I saw recently?
Yeah, he's crushing it. He just moved to Colorado and he's doing mountain guiding in Colorado. I want to say he did some stuff with Ironclad recently.
Yeah, they probably did. Is 30 Seconds Out still in? Where was it? Was it in Idaho? Yeah, it was in Sun Valley.
It was Sun Valley, Idaho. They've since moved. They're in Colorado now.
Okay. The whole thing. So the whole operation moved.
I believe so. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, but they're crushing it. If you watch all our actors on SEAL Team, right? If you notice the t-shirts they wear,
yeah,
right. A lot of the guys are rocking the 30 Seconds Out, and that was a slight nod to Evan.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, they were in 30 Seconds Out, and I see some Forged in there as well. I see them.
Yeah. There's some Forged in there. Yeah. We try and subtly support the brands we can,
nice.
Without CBS marketing getting involved and trying to charge them.
Yeah. Have anybody ever gotten in trouble for wearing a hat or a shirt or a patch on the show that they shouldn't have? Or not shouldn't have, but they should have. But did they get ever like, hey, you might want to, I noticed that my books were never on the shelves in the background of any scenes. I noticed that.
Yeah. Well, the deal with the legal process in doing these scripts, from legal reviews and names to you name it. And so, I would say the only thing, if you watch SEAL Team in season 1, one of our actors got booted, like a boot on his car from the security at CBS Studios, right? So we cut the boot off his car, and in every episode of season 1, the boot is somewhere in the background of the episode. It's buried, it's hidden, but you can see it if you look close enough.
Oh man, that is so fantastic. Gosh. And we talked a little bit about that whole thing, how it all came about last time you were on, and man, it's still going. I mean, are we between seasons? We had the writer's strike, so that meant you should have been filming this past summer, but didn't because of the writer's strike and the SAG strike. So what's happening with the show?
We're still on hold because of all the strikes. Right now, we may be able to start writing, but nobody can start acting yet until that piece gets sorted out. We're on hold like the rest of the world.
Oh man, did doing the show make you want to do more in Hollywood or less in Hollywood?
more, but with the right people.
Yeah.
Right. I think with any organization and any environment, you got to figure it out. And I didn't know what I didn't know. Right. I'd never worked in Hollywood. We worked in a very different environment for a very long time. So okay, come to the new environment, learn the world before you learn to speak up. Right. Eyes open, mouth shut, see how the sausage is made, see where you can add value. And then you start seeing who the studs and the duds are, right? And who you can trust and who you can't. And that's similar in every environment, whether you're in Afghanistan, whether you're in the SEAL teams, whether you're in Hollywood, right? You got to check all those boxes. And I've been lucky enough, the show's gone 7 years now. So I've seen a lot of growth. I've spent 7 years learning and getting dangerous in that space. And then, learning who the right people are to team with, who you can trust, etc. All stuff I'm sure you've learned as well.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And then chase the opportunities. Right. I've been lucky enough to parachute in and get the show going to where it's been. I got a couple things up my sleeve that I'm working in that space. So we'll see what plays out.
Nice. So was it fall 2017 when it came out?
Oh geez, yeah, somewhere in there.
To test our math.
I'm bad with dates.
Speaking of memory and everything like that, we'll probably jump back to Hollywood here in a second. But how's everything going? Like after leaving the military, I know you did some different therapies here and there. And are you doing yoga still? What are you doing, like workout wise and brain wise? What are you doing to keep yourself healthy and in shape? And how's the memory? How's all that stuff going?
Yeah, geez. Well, I turned into like a fat mess when I got out.
You weren't that fat.
I think everybody goes through their transition phase, and I had, right. I think everybody has a set of medical issues.
You had a couple other stressors. You had a couple outside stressors as well.
Yeah, I had a lot going on, but right. I think everybody does getting out, whether it's just the transition out, whether it's the physical side of things. Right. I've had 5 neck surgeries from our good friend. So I think starting there, from Doc Bray.
5. But one, was it 1 or 2? And then you got, was it rear-ended? Where you guys got really,
yeah.
That was serious. That wasn't like a little tap. That was serious. Yeah,
it was a good 3 neck surgeries, feeling great again. And then rear-ended driving to a charity event in Chicago in a rental car. And re-injured my neck again. So then a couple more surgeries, and now that's better, right? I've done the stem cell treatment where they stem cells. It wasn't in a joint or anything. It was kind of put in an IV through my whole body. That was amazing. I really thought positively of that study.
Where did you do that?
I did that out of San Diego. Actually, it was I got involved with a study. It was for NFL athletes and former operators with traumatic brain injury type stuff. And it was, harvest your own stem cells, give them to you through an IV. And they gave us a round of cognitive tests before and after.
Okay.
And the study was to see if it, the stem cells reduced swelling in the brain, countered some of the TBI effects. And the cognitive studies on the beginning and the end were to see if it helped with our memory.
Okay.
I can't tell you if I'm any smarter. I probably stutter more and drool just about the same. But
do you remember what happened at the end? Do you remember what happened between those 2 studies?
The negligible on the memory piece. I would say the biggest thing for me is I'm super sore. Right, 5 neck surgeries, a lot of beat down through my career. I take Motrin all the time. I'm sore. I'm achy. Right. I do my yoga to counter that. But I had no Motrin. I felt great. No sore muscles. No anything for like 6 going on 9 months.
Wow.
After I got that that transfusion. So I don't know. It was part of a study. If I could do it every 6 months, I'd go do another round.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
But you never did the injections right into your neck.
Nope. That was all Doc Braid working his magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the brain treatment stuff after that?
That was a lot of guys. Right when I got out, it was before NICO. It was before a lot of the stuff that the command was actually sponsoring.
Because you didn't do NICO, right? Is that?
No, I missed all that, man. I missed everything. Yeah. I got out right before all that hit, where they really started doing the studies. Right, I got out. I sat down with a doc, and he's like, check all the boxes on the sheet that apply to you. I checked every single box, and he's like, yeah, all those are signs and symptoms of PTSD. I'm like, what? I feel fine. I don't know. Anyway, so I missed all that. So yeah, by 2017, I had heard from mutual friends of ours about the Brain Treatment Center out in San Diego, California at the time. And that was they give you the EEG, they read your brainwave, and then they use the fancy magnet to kind of tap your brainwaves back down into normal parameters. And I had like crazy anxiety and no sleep issues with everything I had going on, getting out and just the government nonsense, just all of it. So I went out there in 2017 and man, I thought it was crazy witchcraft. It's magnets. I sat down with the doctor. They read my brainwaves, and the doc, I'd never met this guy before. He looks at me, he looks at the squiggly line. He's like, "You don't sleep, do you?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, all right." He's like, "You have anxiety?" I'm like, like he started listing all this stuff that I had without me ever talking to this guy. And so he had me hooked. And then you sit down in the chair. They use the magnet on your forehead for 30 minutes a day. And so, yeah, that helped a decent amount with my sleep and anxiety. And so, yeah, I've tried a decent amount of this stuff.
How much do you think, I mean, who knows? Was the guy's first name doctor, or was he an actual doctor? Did he go to medical school?
Yes. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of actual MDs behind this. Checking. And before I went, our good friend Doc Bray was like, I'm going to vet this with you. So he went over and sat down with me. I stayed at Doc's house when I went through treatment. So
yeah, man. And we have some other friends that went through around the same time who say that it changed their lives.
Yeah, I think it helps. I think it's one of many things guys got to do. I think the most important thing is just kind of getting out of your own way and saying, hey, I need some help. And then finding those new solutions that work for you. It's different for everybody. And so, yeah, I mean, we know a lot of colleagues of ours that are doing the psychedelic stuff, which I think is having a huge positive effect. So yeah, I think there's different options for different people. Different people have different issues.
Yeah.
Then I think the whole point is for guys like us to talk about it, to get the stigma out of the way that, hey, actually, guys need to go seek some sort of help. I tuned up my car I maintenance my car every time I need to maintenance my car. I clean my gun. I do all the maintenance on my warfighting equipment, but I did none for myself.
Yeah.
For a very long time. And so I think that's just, we got to talk about that.
Yeah. I wonder how much is placebo stuff, or how much it actually, like, the doctor's like, it's a pretty good guess that you're not sleeping. If you're there, if you're like there, you probably tried to do everything you possibly could to, avoid doing anything extra, like going and having to spend time sitting in a seat somewhere with a magnet attached to your head. So it's a pretty good guess, I would say, that a doctor like, you're having trouble sleeping, aren't you? Yeah. Damn. Let's see. Like that sort of a thing. Are you drinking too much? Yeah. How do you know? How did you guess?
You're the Vegas palm reader.
Exactly. This guy's amazing. Like, well, yeah.
You're the 30th operator.
Exactly. I feel like
this week. I've got you guys pegged. I know exactly what to spoon feed you, and you're going to believe.
Yeah. I feel like I could attach those little electrodes like to your head or anybody operator's head and sit down there and put on a white jacket and put, a little doctor on my thing and say those same things without looking and just pretending like I'm reading something. But like you said, who knows? Like, if it's helping guys, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And to what degree, right? Because at the same time I did that, I started meditating. Right. And so what level did the meditation apply? What value do you apply to the brain treatment? What value do you apply to the stem cells? What value do you apply to faith and all these other pieces? And I think it's right? It's when you're in the SEALs, we don't train just to do CQB. We train to do a lot of different things. And I think it's you got to kind of have a similar approach when you get out. Hey, I'm gonna try a lot of these things, and if I can get 10% value and put that in my pocket and use it when I need it, great. If not, all right,
try something else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess a lot of it is that there are so many more options now than there were for guys coming back from Vietnam. Like, imagine those guys coming back, zero. They had nothing. And, now there's a lot of different options. But the key is, I think you have to try them out. Like you said, you got to try the one. Maybe you find the one that works for you, or the two that help, a certain percentage, and figure it out and move forward.
And it can't just be the one, right? It can't just, I'm not just taking this blue pill and it's going to be easy, and this, I'm doing this and it's done. I'm going to go get my brain zapped. Yeah. No, not that easy. It just like everything else in life, it takes hard work and the commitment to stick with it, because you can go do your psychedelic journey, come back, and then fall off that wagon just as quick. And so it's a combo approach.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're finding the yoga, you're still yoga, meditating? Are you throwing weights around? Are you running? What are you doing on that front?
Yeah, I do a little bit of weights, with my neck. I'm not throwing anything heavy around, but yeah, I enjoy my weights. I got a little basement gym. I don't drive to 24-hour. So no, I get it done here. I am routinely asked to go to yoga. I may tag along here and there, but not often.
Okay. Gotcha. So Hollywood front, I mean, I don't know if we can talk about it, but you had a call, or no, you had a sit down meeting with Spielberg. Is that right? Early on, before SEAL Team CBS?
Yeah. He was like one of the first guys I ever met through the book, right? Through No Easy Day. And my agent there, right? They all work in those worlds of buying manuscripts and whatever. So next thing you know, they were like, hey, Steven Spielberg would love to meet you. I'm like, okay, cool. So went down, met him, was like one of the first guys I met. Phenomenal meeting, interesting guy. I really didn't know what to expect. The second guy I met, they said I'm meeting up with a guy named J.J. Abrams. I had to Google. I had to Google who he was. I was like, okay, so, sounds like a big deal. Mm-hmm. I had heard of Spielberg, but Abrams. So yeah, had a couple of those meetings.
Did you ask Spielberg if he's made anything that you might have seen?
No, we had a really good conversation. He was, I think I might have had a 30-minute meeting scheduled with him, and it went like 2 hours. And I remember a really intelligent conversation. Yeah. And I was impressed. Clearly, he's got the resume he has in the background, because he's at that level.
Yeah. Was it his office or at his house?
At his office.
Was there any memorabilia you remember from did he have like a Jaws sticking out of the wall or anything?
Oh man, he had a ton of stuff. The one thing I always remember is, and I've been to his office multiple times, and the meetings I've had with him, I always remember the same thing. It's right. You're all in the conference room right off of his office, and right, you're sitting there, and before he comes in, somebody comes in and places his hot tea down in front of his place, and but does the 1 spoonful of sugar, stirs it 3 times clockwise, clanks the spoon twice, sets it down. As they walk out, they set the mood lighting. He walks out, and like 2 seconds later, the man himself walks in. That's awesome. And that's been the routine the several times we've had a meeting. I'm like, that's a pretty good entry.
Oh man, that's pretty solid. He didn't ever sit down and say, this spoon was only clanked once.
Nope, never.
That's awesome.
Never. Man. Like he never gave off the pretentious vibe one bit. He just that was his gig, and I respect that.
There's a cool photo. It was sponsored by Rolex, and it must be from, let's say, 83, 84 timeframe, somewhere around there. Celebrity shotgun shoot in Hollywood, and it's him and Harrison Ford, shotguns, sponsored by Rolex. Like, that's a different time.
Yeah, that ain't happening anymore.
No, unfortunately, it's not too common anymore. But oh man, so what would you like to do in Hollywood circles? Is that something that you're passionate about, continuing down that path, or is it just one of many different, let's say, verticals that that you have going on? You always have a lot going on. You always have
sure. Well,
always on the hustle.
Not putting all my eggs in one basket, and with the recent strike. It'd be a perfect example of why I wouldn't want to go all in on the Hollywood space. but no, I've learned a lot and built some great relationships with some amazing, super smart, talented people, and Fuqua being one of them, right? And I've built a long standing relationship with him, and have had the opportunity to bring him other projects and present other things in this world. So yeah, definitely. Still playing in it. Am I moving to LA anytime soon? Not a chance. Do I look forward to playing in this space? Yeah. I mean, we've done some great things with SEAL Team. I don't, we try and promote it through CBS and Paramount, but I don't think they've done the best job that they could have. We've had hundreds of vets involved in this show from season one, hundreds, not just two or three. Right. We've had them at every single level, from directors, writers, producers, stunts, background, you name it, editing. And that's been really fun and encouraging to see. We've got the actors involved, right? We brought in, through the Gary Sinise Foundation, we brought in 30 Gold Star widows. We gave them a tour of the set. We brought them down to our team room set. Mm-hmm. We had the widows sit there, and I asked all the writing staff to come down. And, writing staff came down, and then we asked for all the Gold Star families around the table to share the story of how they lost their loved one. Yeah. Right. And they did, one by one around the table. Our writers are sitting there, clearly by the end, crying profusely and letting the stories sink in. And at the end of the day, I'm like, guys, look, right, we're creating a SEAL Team show here. Sure, we're going to have to shoot 'em up stuff, but you have to balance it with all these other pieces to give it the reality we've tried to give it. So.
Yeah. Well, it's really good. People ask me about it all the time. Is this real? Is this real? And I just say, man, you guys did such a good job with it. It's it's a fantastic show. And I wonder do you have any indication of how long it's going to, is it season by season, or do they ever go like, hey, now let's say you're at season 4, you're renewed for another 2 seasons, or is it always like just one after the other?
It's been a wild ride, right? Yeah. We never know after the first season if it was a long wait to get the second and third, and then we moved to Paramount, and so it's been a learning growth process the whole time. I don't think we've ever got more than whatever the shortest order is, and boom, deliver that and move on. So, right, it's a big company, as you know, that gets stood up for that period of time, and then it gets dissolved. And then it gets stood up, and then it gets dissolved. And so it's an interesting way of doing business. As much as I like to say Hollywood and the military are very different, I think there's a lot of similarities. The way the process goes down. And what I love the most is the creative people in the Hollywood space. They're like, they would have been great SEALs to some degree, because SEALs are very creative and have to think outside the box. And I think a lot of the people that I've really gotten to know and become friends with in the entertainment industry are also massively creative. Yeah. No, it's you guys have done a fantastic job with it, and I'm always just curious how the other people's experiences are in that space, because it seems like everyone's experience is there's not like a common path. It seems like the way these things are discovered or pitched or created or get to the next level, it seems like they're all different. Because I'm always so curious, and always asking like how you got this made or that made, and it seems like it's not like a cookie cutter model. People are always wanting to reach out and ask me how you got published or how you got the show made or whatever else, and I don't think there's not like a path that here's the secret, you got to do this or that. Right. No, it seems like every experience is so different. And I agree. And if you told them here was the path, you'd be lying to them, because you and I are examples of the outliers, right? We did not go to school for production design, whatever, like all these different things that people are going to school for to get into this space, right? And here we are. We did not. We took a totally different route. And I think there's pros and cons to each route. I would say anybody who says there's some sort of limiting level to get into Hollywood, I'd say that's bullshit, right? I'd say anybody with the right story, time, and place can get in and get something made. And I think that's what makes Hollywood Hollywood, is anybody can make those happen. It's just how and when, I don't know. That's the secret sauce.
Quentin Tarantino did not go to film school. He's a fan. And that's where he's, a uber ultra super fan. But similar to how I was reading growing up, I didn't go to school for any of these things. It was all from that fan perspective by didn't look at it as at work at the time. Like I'm sure Quentin Tarantino didn't look at sitting down in the movies at age 7, 8, 9, 10 was work. No, he was just enjoying them for the magic of the movies.
But you think about
magic.
Think about people who come up in the system, right? They know one thing. They only know what the system has taught them. I came from outside the system, and we're telling a story that's about a world that Hollywood doesn't necessarily know. And so I think it's been a fun learning experience balance. I think, the military, the government trained us to go into Afghanistan, Iraq, etc., to learn the local cultures, make friends, be successful, accomplish things there, and be a problem solver. And I think whether you're in Hollywood or Afghanistan, right, Hollywood's just more of a community where they won't carry a gun and shoot you. They'll just stab you in the back when you turn around, right? Afghanistan's just a different environment.
Yeah, life in general, I think, is about creative problem solving, and in certain instances, aggressive creative problem solving. But very similar to the same way I'm solving problems on pages of scripts or in the novels. It's aggressive problem solving. It's creative problem solving. Though if we mess up a script or, if I mess up a book, it's the consequences are a lot less dire. That's for sure. Sure. Speaking of dire consequences, so no easy day, of course. The book is here and we talked about it on the last podcast, but what did people, when we did the podcast, was it 4 parts or 5 parts? Regardless.
4 really long ones.
It was, yeah. But it was so awesome to be able to sit down with you and go through all this. And once again, for me, it's an excuse just to sit down with a dear friend and hang out for a little bit. But what feedback did you get after doing the podcast last time?
It was great. I fly pretty under the radar. So my friends who listened to it really liked it. I appreciated the fact that my biggest takeaway from it, besides getting the chance to sit down with you and hang, because that was my first podcast. And right, I don't do a lot of these. Where was I going with that? I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
What the feedback was after doing it? We sat down for 5 hours. I think we with piss breaks, and for those listening, you have the smallest bladder in the SEAL teams. Yeah. I think the history of the SEAL teams, but it whittled down to 4 from that 5 or 6, however long we were hanging out. Not because we edited it, but because just taking breaks, going outside, grabbing a drink, hanging out, talking, and then realizing we had to get back to the podcast.
My biggest takeaway, I remember what it was. It was that I read some of the comments, and I appreciated the fact that people like the 4th episode, where we really got into a little more of the post-military career, a little bit of the mental health discussions, etc. Yeah. Right. Everybody expects SEALs and the shoot 'em up big mission stuff, and sure, there's plenty of that out there. But I think in our last episode or whatever, the last little bit, we got into a little bit of different conversation, and I thought people really appreciated that, at least in the comments, the few that I read.
Yeah, you do fly under the radar. Because your Instagram is still private, right?
Yeah, I've done that from the beginning, just because there's, I don't know, I hate, and I'm growing by the day to hate social media even more. I'm, if anything, I'm kind of enjoying possibly this podcast space a little better, because it's a little more of an authentic look and version, right? Instagram and some of these others have become such a snapshot of what fake bullshit people can peddle. Mm-hmm. And at least in this format, it's a lot harder to disguise things, I guess. And so I don't know. So but still have my Instagram, but that's it.
Yeah. No website or anything like that. So everything that you do is word of mouth, right?
I think you'll laugh. I think I have a Mark Owen website. I think we're standing it up for the book 3 thing coming out. But
you had one a long time ago. I can tell you that you once had one at the beginning, and then I think maybe it went away or something.
So clearly I did not handle that. So
You didn't design your website?
Yeah, wasn't involved in that one. So I would have to reach out to my friend that did that for me and be like, all right, what's the plan?
Is this thing still up? Yeah. Let me tell you about First Form. They have amazing products. My personal favorites are the protein sticks and the Micro Factor daily nutrient packs. And why do I like them so much? Because First Form makes it super easy to get quality protein and nutrients on the go. And I always seem to be on the go. While their products are top-notch quality, what I like the most about them are their values. First Form is so much more than a supplement company. They are deeply committed to both American jobs and your personal well-being. At First Form, they value people. In fact, the only thing they've automated is a tape machine, a symbol of their dedication to providing jobs and making lives better. They care about employing people, nurturing their growth, and genuinely improving lives. Their mission is simple. First Form is there to help you reach your fitness and wellness goals. They believe in a partnership where if you meet them halfway, they'll help you make progress. Go to firstform.com/Jack Carr to receive free shipping on any orders over $75. That's stphorm.com/Jack Carr. Once again, that's stphorm.com/Jack Carr and receive free shipping on any orders over $75.
No, I think we'll do maybe a little bit of that around the next book because that's going to be a little bit of different approach, I guess.
Yeah, and I do want to ask you about that, but it's hard when you want to engage with people. And for me, I want to thank people is how the main thing for social media for me is I want to say thank you to everybody who gives me the opportunity to do what I love to do, which is write. But in going through those comments to thank people, you see the ones of, the nasty ones and you're like, try not to let it get to you. But it takes up a tiny bit of bandwidth. Like the other day I saw one and I forget how I saw it because, I don't read the comments on YouTube. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. There is a Facebook, there's a LinkedIn, but it's only Instagram and Twitter that I do. And, primarily trying to, share a little bit of this journey for whatever it's worth, provide value to people throughout, not just the week the book comes out, but throughout the whole year, which is another reason I do the podcast. But on Instagram and Twitter, I will see the crazy ones when people, because you're just out there, you're just like this, and people from behind cover can send that arrow or send that spear or whatever, and you can't do anything back because you're just out there taking these arrows. But one person really wanted to tell me that I am the worst at reading ads on the podcast. So I was like, thanks, buddy. I know I'm not great at it. It's not my thing, but it's part of the deal.
I'm actually glad I'm not good at that. Thank you very much.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I'm never going to be good at reading. Yeah. I'm never going to be good at reading ads. And it's not my goal to get any better at it, but for that, but it did take up a little bandwidth. I'm like, man, doing the best I can, buddy.
Here's my thing with that, right? I have a ton of friends, right? And I can engage with those friends in different formats, different mechanisms, and I know how they add value to my life. And I look at the social media stuff, that whole landscape of friends, and what you consider friends or whatever that even is in social media anymore. And you and I are old enough to see where it all started and where it's grown to. And I just can't imagine where it's going to in the future.
Yeah.
And everything I see around it is just data mining you, the individual. And so I just am like, man, me as the individual, I want to provide less of a mine for people to data mine to then sell my info. And so I just, the less I do on there, the less fake I feel, the less fake friends I have, I don't know. I get the business side of it. I totally understand that. But on the personal side of it, the only reason I do it is because I've helped a ton of kids now go to buds.
Yep.
And right, some are now at my former command.
That's
that reached
crazy.
Yes. Right.
It's been that long.
it's been that long, right? They reached out when they first read No Easy Day. They joined. They've done their 2 pumps. Now they're a dam neck and doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole reason. Every time I go to delete it, I'm like, this is a waste of time. I check this thing once a month. I'm like, all right, well, see how Jimmy's doing.
Yeah, right. Well, it's probably much healthier. The way you've handled it is probably much healthier, especially with everything that happened after you got out in the publication of the book. I mean, I can't imagine how much worse things would have been had you been glued to social media or glued to comments or whatever else.
Well, that was part of my intent from the beginning of always doing the pseudonym bullshit and not showing my face, right? There was never a reason to come out per se or be anything, right? That's right. I think that's what I'll talk about a lot in my next book is, right, I chose the pseudonym, my real name leaked, right? I'm going to talk a lot about that whole process.
What stage are you in on the book right now? And have you thought about ever showing your face, like as things go, move along here?
I don't see any value in my ugly mug. Right. There's honestly no value in that. Right. I've done public speaking. I've done all the things that I've done, and I'm not out there. And that's pretty easy to do. I've done that for a decade now.
Yeah.
My real name leaked. I'll give you a teaser. My next book may be written by Mark Owen, co-authored by Matt Bissonette. I don't know. We'll see.
Nice. I like it. That's clever. I like that.
So we'll see.
Nice. Are you working out with Kevin Maurer again, or what's this look like?
We'll see. I'm definitely not smart enough to write this by myself, but I want my voice. This is a different story. This isn't my wartime story. This is my getting out and my mental health journey of getting out of the teams, which is a hard enough struggle for any operator, but then having the government come after me for the book and just all of that drama that put the extra pressure on, just family issues, et cetera, and getting through that.
I think that'll be extremely powerful for people because they don't need to have been an operator at your former command and have gone on the, one of the biggest missions in the history of special operations, and then to have written a book and had the government go after you and dealt with everything that you have dealt with to be able to relate to struggle and adversity. So I think it's going to be incredible. What stage are you at? Have you started writing it? Do you have an outline, or what's the timeline look like?
Yeah. We're 80% through it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's good. And I've done it all so far. So it's good. And then I'm going to do I'll do the audiobook this time.
Oh, wow. Who read the audiobook last time? For the last two?
I don't know. We hired a different person for the last two.
Oh, different person.
So weird.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one I'll do the audiobook, and then I was talking to a former teammate the other day, talking about it, actually interviewing him since he's also transitioned, right? A lot of the characters in my first 2 books have all gotten out and had transitions.
Yeah.
So you're going to get you'll get teasers from these guys.
Nice. And they're going to read their parts?
Potentially. He brought it up. He's like, "Hey, I listened to this audiobook the other day, and they actually had the real people and all their voices."
That's cool.
In the audiobook. He's like, it added some more production value, but he was like, I was blown away with the whole story. I was like, all right, you're on to something. So we'll see.
Is Walt going to be one of them?
We'll see.
Oh.
No, I've talked with multiple, and I've got at least 2 or 3 that are interested to some degree of at least giving their perspective of their journeys out, right? Like think of, right. We've talked a lot about the stories while guys are in and all the crazy heroics, all that blah, blah, blah. We've all been out for a while now. How do we tell some of the stories in a relatable way and in a smart way that shows what Spec Ops guys are dealing with as they transition out and try and find civilian, meaningful life, passion, work, family, etc.
Oh man, that is awesome. Have you practiced reading anything yet? You have a great voice. So I think it's a great idea for you to read the audiobook. Have you practiced like reading something yet to see?
Maybe your critic who was talking shit, I ought to send him some samples so he could critique my voice. If he gives me a good go,
You can't worry about anybody like that. You already have a good voice. It's your writing, so it's not like you're going to have to do accents like for Ray Porter, who reads mine. I mean, he's doing Russian accents, he's doing Rhodesian accents, he's doing all sorts of stuff different. He's doing females, he's doing all of it.
Yeah.
So he has to keep that straight in his head as he's reading these things, and it's just insane. I read a new forward to the Terminal List Chris Pratt edition. So when the show came out, I wrote a new forward that had the like how the show came about, how I met Chris, how I met Antoine. Well, Antoine, you gave the book to, by the way, for those listening. So I write all about that, write about the veterans we had involved in the show, just how it came about. And I had the bright idea to recommend or to ask if I could read it. And so they said, yeah, that's a great idea. So I'm like, it's 5 or 6 pages of this forward. And it's me. There's no accents. I'm not doing a female voice. I'm not doing a Russian accent, nothing like that. And so I went into a closet upstairs and hung a bunch of clothes everywhere to absorb the sound, and ran the cord under. And I had the director in New York on the other line. All I had to do is read my own words without accents or anything else. It was so hard. It was so much more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And I kept messing things up. And I was like, anyway, I have so much respect for the narrators who read these books, who have to do all those accents and keep all the characters straight. And anyway, I don't want to dissuade you though. I think you're going to be great.
I'm nervous.
No, you're going to be fantastic.
And it reinforces my friend's idea here that they need to come in and actually play their positions in the dialogue, and it'll be fun. We'll see.
That'd be cool. You could even do a little, like, add things to the chapter in the book. You could have a part that are like a conversation between you and them as like a bonus feature on an audio. That's so it's another reason for people to go to the audio rather than and get the book itself and have almost a different experience with each one.
Yeah,
because
it's really tying that in with podcast format. Something right there's something in there, and I think that's what I was alluding to earlier with less social media and more. Right, where content is going. People are tired of fake content, and in the short lump pieces that's easily edited and fluffed, it's all fake. You don't believe it. Well, if I can sit down and listen to Jack Carr for 45 minutes or an hour, I get a real good vibe of who Jack Carr is, what he says, what he believes in, how he delivers him, how he speaks, etc. Yeah. And I think people are there's more value there. People are tending more to that because it's a real connection that they're getting rather than an Instagram post with a whole bunch of fluff.
Yep. Yeah. But the nonfiction space, certainly, if you're not on podcasts and not on social channels engaging, but you read your own book, for sure, where you just your voice intonations and things that you stress and emotion in your voice. I mean, it's so personal. So I think that's a fantastic way to connect with an audience if that's your chosen medium in which to do so. Yeah, that's that like Jocko reads his, and some people, they hire somebody else to read, a professional, but on the nonfiction side of the house, especially how personal this third book is to you. I'm all in on that. I think that's a solid move. And don't answer this, or we can edit it out, but do you have a title for it yet? Or are you planning on announcing a title, or what's going on there?
Yeah, we might have dropped it in the last podcast, and I've been teasing at it. Right, I got to work with my publishers to get it all done. But what I would love to see, right, and is knowing all the backstory that and my government drama with No Easy Day and all that. I want to use the exact same cover as No Easy Day. And I literally want a one line in Navy fashion, day, right? And I want to put way right above it.
Yeah.
Because turns out one single day is not long enough, and it's no easy way. It's more of a journey. It's more of your entire life, and it's not a day. So I just kind of like the simplicity of one-lining it. It's at least people recognize the cover, so if they're walking by, and like, I read that guy's first book. What's this one all about?
Oh yeah. I mean, this picture has been copied so many times. It's such an iconic photo now, but it was the first one like this. And then you saw it pop up a few other places as well.
And I took that photo for the NRA, before we published the book, and I just happened to have that photo, and I used it on the copy.
Yep, I remember. I remember I had a very early copy of this photo that you texted me, and man, yeah, I think that'd be awesome. So you one line that, you change that up there, and maybe, what do you think? Same color, even backdrop, or make it like a blue or a red or something like that, so people know it's not the same book. They don't walk by like Hudson News and out of the corner of their eye, like they're not saying, "Oh, I already read that one." You know?
Yeah. It's got to have some extra flair, and I am not the expert in the flair department, but but yes, we will add some flair.
Oh, I'm already thinking about it. I'm already putting my brain into it.
Yeah.
Man, yeah.
So that'll be the end, and then Mark Owen will go disappear somewhere.
Man, oh man. Well, I mean, that was your goal for a while now, is to go someplace peaceful, isn't it?
Well, yeah, so to speak, right? You know, I like to keep busy, etc. But just from a public persona standpoint, right? I chose the Mark Owen fake name. It clearly didn't stick. There's plenty of other people out there using pseudonyms, and they use them daily. I always constantly called my real name, no matter how much I try. Fine, I'm going to address that in the book. It is what it is. It doesn't mean I have to run around and get on the news and say, "Hey, look at me." That doesn't add any value to the story. So yeah, that is what it is.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to reading that. What's the timeline on it?
We'll see, because the review process.
That might take 10 years for you. I'm sure they'll rush you right to the top of the stack.
Well, and think about this, Jack. Think about the fact that I am going to very openly and honestly discuss how the government treated me. Mm-hmm. Like, very honest, talk through the whole process of the interrogations and the legal drama and all of it. And I'm going to very blatantly show the double standard. And so yeah, they're not going to like it. They're going to want to suppress anything I have to say, because it doesn't look good on them. So we'll see. I have no idea the timeline. I clearly am going to get it reviewed and go through all those steps. That whole process, you and I know, is an absolute joke. They haven't fixed it. They haven't changed it. And I was the only one targeted in any of that nonsense, and they haven't targeted anybody since. But yeah. So for that answer, I can't give you a timeline, because I'm going to get this thing reviewed, and I guarantee they're going to come try and kick me in the nuts. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because you mentioned interrogations, and I should be thanking you for the interrogation scene in the Terminal List, both in the show and in the book. And it's very personal for a reason, in writing that chapter, and then it makes it into the show with Chris Pratt as well. So, thanks for that.
Yeah. We can. Yeah.
Got to turn it into a positive, Got to turn it into a positive. But
I think all of this is right. The point of me writing the third book is it's got to help me pay off my first book, because I've got a lot of debt to the government on that one. But it's also got to share a positive message, because if you'd asked me, you've known me well enough to know I was very unhealthy and unhappy when I got out, and right, the government stuff, I was, to say I was suicidal over this would be an understatement. It was a lot. And so to get through that and get to a position where I can look at the government shit and just kind of chuckle at it now, learning some patience, learning some perspective, and here I am. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I'll share book 3.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody who could have handled it better. That was a lot of stress, and and you made it through. Like, you didn't, you put on a strong front during that time, and man, I don't know anybody who could have dealt with that as well as you did. Like,
I felt like I was still in battle, right? You felt like you were still at war, and so I'll talk about it in the book 3. All right, now I finally feel 10 years after getting out, right? I'm finally transitioned and out of a warfare mindset of everything's a battle and and I think for the first 5 years after me getting out and dealing with the government, I was not transitioning. I was in a battle for my life against the government that I served. So I was very confused and upside down and trying to process all that.
Yeah, man, so tough. I think they'll probably, I mean, if I was to guess, we'll talk about it again after the book comes out, and I might be completely off base, but I think they'll treat you fairly just so that we're not on here talking about how they, once again singled you out in this book, but look at this person's book over here who is at the top of the list because they were an admiral or a general or a politician or whatever it is. So I'm thinking it's going to go to somebody's desk, and if they have, any sort of integrity in there at all, if someone asks, what should I do with this? They're going to say, treat him like anybody else. Just go through there and, do your job. So I'm hopeful.
I doubt that.
Yeah.
And I'm a glass half full guy.
You are,
Jack. You know this, yeah, right? Like that. I'm always the positive in all of this, and I've seen it for 10 years, and they've let me down every single time. Yeah. So I don't have any high expectations for anybody on the government side to do it right.
I know.
We'll submit it. We'll go through the process, and
we'll talk about it. It'll be interesting to see. It'll be very interesting to see when the book comes out.
The interesting thing to see is this will have nothing to do with tactics, techniques, or procedures, right? Yeah. I'm talking about my life after the military.
Yeah.
Right. I'm talking about my mental health journey and what, they tried to do to me after I got out. None of that has anything to do with, right, the tactics, techniques, and procedure bullshit they tried to pin on me before. So we'll see what they can even come back with.
Yep. Interesting.
In an attempt.
Let's see. Are they the 4-banger on this? Nope. Yeah. I was just going to check, just double checking to see what nods were on the cover. Nope. So you're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to let out that there's nods that don't look exactly like that.
Yeah. Just have them Google it right there while they're interrogating.
Crazy. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was interesting. That's for sure. Jeez. When you look back today and you look back at everything you did over your time in the military, particularly at your last command, and you think about the mission that you read about in the book that they've of course made movies about, and when you look back at all those missions leading up to that point, which one stands out as one that was deeply impactful, either because of something that went right, something that went wrong, something that you take forward with you to this day, either as perhaps a regret or as something that you look back on and build upon and apply to your daily life now, or maybe not daily life, but apply to adversity and situations now? You look back, is there a mission or two that stand out in your mind that have really impacted you?
Oh man, that's a good, broad, deep question, because I like to think I learned something from every mission, right? There wasn't a mission I didn't go on that I was like, I have to learn something from this. But if you're talking for something big, my mind goes back to right. One of the first missions, I think it was my first mission we ever went on, Iraq War, right? We're going to take off from Kuwait, fly up to secure the Haditha Dam in Iraq. We do our whole thing, right? We fast rope in at night. There's nobody there. The next morning, the sun comes up, and there's literally AAA guns locked and loaded 100 yards away from all our insert points, right? Had any 15-year-old kid with any know-how how to shoot those things could have shot us down easily, right? Somehow in all our mission planning, we didn't catch it, whatever it was. We didn't know what we didn't know. Yeah. And we stumbled into this trying to be really gung-ho. It was our first one. We thought we had all our mission plan. We hadn't thought through everything, and we didn't know. My point to all of this is I apply that to everything in life. You only know, what you've been exposed to. You can go in with the best intentions, whether it's your next book, whether it's into the entertainment industry or whatever path you choose. You only know what you know. And you can create the best plan of attack around that. But there's always this piece of the unknown. And you'll only figure that out once you get there and have to deal with it, once you're faced with it. Yeah. And so, that'd be my biggest takeaway, because I apply that, whether it's Hollywood or anything else I'm doing. There's a contingent of unknown that we're going to have to deal with when we get there.
Yeah, man, I thought you were going to choose two different ones, but in that same deployment, how long was it from that to you in a house having, did the long gun go click and then you transition to the pistol? Yeah.
Yeah, but that was, I'm sure, assaulting up a set of stairs, long gun goes jams, transition to my secondary. I was a huge proponent of carrying a secondary, a pistol, right, for most of the rest of my career, when a lot of guys transitioned away from it for weight reasons, etc. Certainly in Afghanistan, I was always, nope, I'm running my pistol because I've had that. But yeah, even over time, I eventually got rid of my pistol, depending on time and place, and how how much faith I had in my M4 not jamming.
Yeah, I mean, I did so much because you were learning so much at such a rapid rate at the command that you were in, and I was the very fortunate beneficiary of both TTPs and gear. Thank you so much. I think I have a garage full still of your stuff, but I always kept the pistol. And I remember when you stopped carrying yours, that was one thing I didn't adopt. I kept mine because at that time I was also taking my body armor off a lot to go into meetings and things like that. So I always wanted to have and had to leave the M4, either outside or whatever. So I was always, even if I wasn't supposed to have that pistol, I always had it anyway. And so I would take it off and it would look like I'm leaving my M4 and my body armor behind and going into a meeting, whether it's with a lot of times with U.S. people, State Department people, or whatever else. But I always kept my pistol and just had to, pull the shirt out, and that's always had my 226 right there. Not the most easily concealable pistol, but that's what we were issued, and that's fit my hand great. I absolutely love it. So that's one that I think one of the only things that I didn't adopt that you passed along. But I sincerely appreciate everything that you passed along, because it wasn't just for me, because then I got to share it with my guys as well. And so I really sincerely appreciate that.
And the pistol thing was time and place and mission set, right? If we're storming the castle as a squadron of assaulters, that's different than hosting some meetings, going in, doing anything low vis, etc. Mm-hmm. It was when we were rolling in hard with the guerrilla package, and you're going to go lay the smack down. I'd usually opt for more hand grenades or 40 Mike or M4 mags than the pistol.
Yeah. Owning a rifle is an awesome responsibility. Building rifles is no different. Started in a garage by a Marine veteran more than 2 decades ago, BCM, Bravo Company MFG, designs, engineers, and manufactures life-saving tools built to a professional standard. BCM builds professional-grade AR rifles and offers a huge and expanding line of upgraded accessories for the rifle, including buttstocks, pistol grips, optic mounts, handguards, vertical grips, and a lot more. BCM is partnered with veteran American Special Operations Forces instructors to ensure our customers have access to proven training to employ critical hard skills under stress. Every BCM product is a collaboration between our design, engineering team, and combat veteran end users. BCM components improve handling and reliability in all scenarios, addressing shortcomings discovered in real-world conditions with legacy systems. We assume that when a rifle leaves our shop, it could be used in a life-or-death situation. Each component is hand-assembled and tested by Americans in Heartland, Wisconsin. Bravo Company MFG is an employee-owned company. Visit us on the web at bravocompanymfg.com and on Instagram at Bravo Company USA. But and the other one that stands out, because we've talked about it a few different times, is when Jimmy Hatch got shot, and what you guys were doing at that time, and then the chaos, just knowing you for as long as I have. If I was to go back in my head and think about the times that we have talked, probably the M4 going dry, or not going dry, the M4 going click when it should have gone bang, transitioning to the pistol, and then the mission where Jimmy got wounded.
And the one Jimmy got wounded, there was so much going on there. There's small lessons, small little lessons learned there, but honestly, for what we were dealing with on the battlefield, tactically, it was unfolding as best case as possible, right? Each kind of maneuvering element had their own action going on. That's just a big debrief one, just because your team leader and somebody close to you gets shot right there, and you're dealing with all that. I guess my answer back to the very first mission was just more holistic, big picture throughout my career. How have I applied that to what I'm doing now? Is, hey, you only know what you know.
Yeah. Well, now being on the other side of a lot of all this, growing up in Alaska, which you talk about a lot in your second book, and we talk about it in the podcast, the first episode of the last podcast that we did together, last podcast series that we did together, and then the military, and then everything you've dealt with personally and professionally from the government side over this last decade. Now that you're more on the other side of it, still having to, pay a little bit back to Uncle Sugar. Now that you're on that other side of those experiences, and you look back on them, and now do you feel like you're in a place where you've like reset and are I mean, you're always moving forward, but do you feel like you hit a reset point? Because it seems like youth into military into everything else that happened after you got out with the book and everything else. It was just like no stops between those two. There wasn't like a reset point. It didn't feel like, from me knowing you and then looking at it from the outside, it seems like one to the next, to the next, to the next. Do you feel like now you've taken a breath and that's been helpful, or do you feel like you've just continued to sprint?
No, man, I want to get to that breath so bad, but I can't get there yet. Right? I've been in combat mode. I got out. I immediately got kicked in the nuts by the government stuff. And as you know, I dealt with that for a really long time. And I'll write a book to get into all the details of it. But, and now to be having to pay back debt on the first book, I've got a 15-year payment plan, right? So if I make every payment back to the government, I'm going to be paying them back for another 15 years. So no, that's not closure. That's not anything. That's me still in the fight, trying to figure out getting that closed. My hope and my dream someday is that I'll get some of that closure and be able to, okay, all this government bullshit drama is finally done. My debt to society has been paid. It's over and done with, and I can now breathe. At that point, then hopefully you'll see a different change in me. But until then, I can't. I don't know how else to do it.
Man, do you carry any resentment towards the government because of what you went through, or are you just like, because you always seem so even keeled, you even seem, so positive. Jack, you know me well. Come on. Of course I do, but I've had. Has it tempered? Has it been tempered over time, or what is it?
Yeah. I was, like I told you, I was suicidal over this, man. I was going to check the fuck out, right? I did all this work for my government to get out, write a book in the best way that I knew how. I hired a lawyer. I did all the right things that I thought, and then they came after me. They came after me in an election year where they a whole bunch of nonsense around it. And then they tried to absolutely crush me over it, right? Felony charges for what? Then it downgraded to misdemeanor charges for what? Prove it. That went 10 years until finally they were like, okay, there's nothing here. There's nothing classified in the book. Just give us all the money back. I'm like, fine, take the money. They're like, well, there's money missing. I'm like, well, that's what I've used to defend myself against you assholes. So now I'm paying that money back. So yeah, I'm still in the fight. We'll get it figured out.
Man, like, also when you think of this like state of the country and you think about future generations and you think about all that sort of thing, are you hopeful, or can you separate your experience from what you assess when you look at society in general, culture in general, or are those two things intertwined?
I think I've lost faith in a lot of systems in which I put a lot of faith in before, right? And I'll say the SEAL teams. I put a lot of faith in a certain level of expectation into the SEAL teams, and I'd say, right, 30% of those around me had the same expectation. You're one of them, right? Right. The 30% of the guys that I'm still friends with and super tight with, I believe that they believe the same level of the teams that we did. But the others, maybe different, right? And no judgment, just different. my faith in the government, the United States government, and their ability to be fair and open-minded, forthright, any of that. That's been questioned through my process. I've reconnected with my religious faith, and that's been the one thing that's grounded me through all of this and given me at least a little bit of like, okay, how the fuck did I survive my career? All the survivor's guilt that comes with that, the withdrawal from that, just all of that nonsense, dealing with all of that, dealing with the fact that we left billions of dollars of military equipment in Afghanistan, yet I'm going to be paying for the next 15 years. Like that's been a bitch to process, to be honest.
Yeah. Did, you seem like you're a pretty forgiving person. Has that
time
reconnecting to that phase? Have you forgiven like those people, who came out really hard against you? Like, have you, or not?
Why are you asking those tough questions?
It's
curious. Hard because some of the most vocal that were very anti Mark Owen for writing, right? Admiral McRaven has gone on and written books and done his own thing. So the hypocrisy is so visible, it's laughable. And so for anybody smart enough to look at it and see it, it's kind of like, wow. Some justification, and look, time reveals a lot, right? And if I was going to be the asshole that a lot of people said I was for writing a book, SEALs don't write books, right? All these headlines that came out, Mark Owen leaked secrets, all this other nonsense. Any bad headline you read about me, I don't know. I'm over it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's forgiveness is a powerful thing. The best, of course, being subjective, chapter that I ever wrote was for not this last one, Only the Dead, but the one before that, In the Blood. And it's just a chapter with Caroline Hastings, who's the mom of Rafe Hastings, who's a character, former SEAL, and Reese, also former SEAL. But it's Reese talking to Caroline Hastings, and she's the matriarch of the Hastings family, and it's just a conversation between those two. And it's early on, I think it's chapter 3 or 4 in the Blood, and it's about forgiveness, and it's about her passing on this lesson to him. And so really the book is, it's a sniper-centric novel of violent resolutions. That was my theme as I went through the novel. That's what I was thinking about constantly. But it's really a book about forgiveness. And it seems like there is so much, I shouldn't say it seems like, there's so much power in forgiveness. So I was just curious, because you went through a lot, but I'm just curious if you think about it in those terms or not.
Yeah. I would say when you explain it that way, I would say, yes, I have forgiven them because I'm at peace now, right? I'm when I think of all the bullshit that they tried to put me through, all of that nonsense, right? They didn't know what they didn't know, right? I didn't know what I didn't know. Here we are. Well, now I have that experience. I have all of that bullshit that they put me through. I have that knowledge, and I'm now stronger, smarter, and more capable because of it. Yeah. Now, did I get kicked in the nuts a few times? Yeah. In the moment, was I feeling sorry for myself? Sure. There was definitely some periods of that, but that's not what we do. And that's not how this works. And so, here we are.
You to get off the podcast and then go to what was the Adam Sandler movie where the guy's like, oh man, I totally forgot about all that in high school. And crosses out the name.
I'm not gonna have to kill you now.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Oh man. And now it's been, August 2021, some time's passed since then. Looking back on that, I mean, we did our last podcast was it fairly right after that, right? Was it right? Because we did it in August. We released it in January. I forget exactly the timeline, but when you look at how we left Afghanistan, man, it is just so difficult to see how we left, see how quickly politicians and the media pivoted to other stories, and then to see these senior level officers who were in charge during that time now move on to whatever job they're going to do next, which is probably sit on a board of company or companies in the defense industry. shake hands and slap each other on the back for a job well done. I mean, they give me a lot to work with in the pages of my novels, which is very therapeutic, by the way. But how do you process that after you sacrificed so much there, after you lost so many friends there, saw people come home totally changed, having to deal with that for the rest of their lives, whether it's physical or emotional, the trauma of the battlefield. How do you process that, how we left Afghanistan and how our senior level military leaders handled it?
Other than an absolute gut punch, I'm still having a hard time articulating, even to myself, how I feel about it. Right? That there is a lot of emotion behind that for me to be like, wait, let's just go ahead and rewind this and think where we are and how all this ended. Mm-hmm. Like, what the? Mm-hmm. And then, right, and I've heard you speak on this, the lack of accountability at the leadership levels, right? Zero, right? I'm talking about accountability. They want to teach me, the enlisted guy, accountability, and I'll pay back more money than I ever made in my entire service. But there will be billions of dollars of equipment and zero accountability. Yeah. So again, it goes back to the hypocrisy in the systems. The systems let me down. I think systems will let a lot of people down. Always. They will always let us down. And we can go back and look at every conflict. You know, I'm a lot more disheartened by just the level of leadership as I look at, you know, my children, what I want them to serve. I'm very proud of my service, but at the same time, I glitch on that a lot of times because I'm proud of the service and the people that I served with, but I look at the leadership and why I got involved in a lot of those conflicts. And it was when I was younger and gung-ho and didn't know any better, just wanted to prove I was some sort of badass. And then when I was, you know, old enough to realize what was actually happening, I'm like, wow, this is really, we should try and avoid this shit, right? There is a time and a place for some smackdown. I believe in that wholeheartedly, but the way in which we've gone about it, and the whole the approach to Iraq, the approach to Afghanistan, you and I had long discussions about this at the enlisted level years ago. We knew it wasn't on track. So the fact that the senior leadership couldn't see it, and now everybody's shirking their responsibility and all the decades of bad decision making, while holding enlisted guys accountable for some stuff. Is again.
Yeah, well, Lieutenant Colonel Paul Yingling nailed it back in, I forget the exact year he did it, let's say 2004, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there, where he said a private who loses a rifle gets in more trouble than a general who loses a war. That's close anyway. I'm paraphrasing, but it's close. The intent is there, but I think that certainly played out in real time in August of 2021. It actually played out for 20 years. If you see these guys going in front of Congress, and I think we talked about it in the last podcast, but reading the book, The Afghanistan Papers by Craig Whitlock, the two Washington Post Freedom of Information Act lawsuits opened up these conversations, interviews with the same people who are going in front of Congress saying we just need more time, we need more money, we need more troops. Our partner forces are making progress. We owe it. Same thing. Yeah, the people with stars on their collar said the exact same thing for 20 years in front of Congress, for the most part. And then he juxtaposes that with what they were saying and what they thought were going to remain classified histories of the war, and it's 180 out. So they were lying to Congress, they were lying to the American people, and by default, they were lying to their own troops. But no accountability. And for some reason, that started changing after World War II. I think we talked about that on the last podcast too. But George Marshall, in the lead up to World War II, during World War II, he certainly held those, anybody in a leadership position, maybe he'd give them a second chance, but I don't think he gave too many third chances, and he held them accountable. He moved them out of the way and put somebody in those spots who could lead us to victory, and hence all the names that we know from World War II who led us to victory. And then for some reason, everything gets reorganized, 1947, reorganization of the military and intelligence services, and that accountability starts to drop off until we get to where we are today, where people just continue to fail upward. And you've got to be surrounded by a whole bunch of yes men, right? Because if any of your underlings are telling you something you don't want to hear, you remove them, you get rid of them. I just don't.
I don't think there's much value in that, right? You've got to have the different opinions. And in our society, whether it's political, government, military, you name it, the day and age of having people think differently than you and them being friends are over, right? Now you're just mortal enemies and you can never see, make middle ground. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, man. And when people ask you, when you're at a speaking event or just in passing, they're like, hey, my son or daughter wants to join the military, or, can you write a recommendation for West Point or Naval Academy or whatever? What do you say to that parent that's like, hey, I'm seeing these things on TV. I watched the Afghanistan withdrawal. I've never been in the military, but I can look at something and apply some common sense to it. And I don't know if I want to encourage my child to join the military, but they really want to do it. What do you suggest? What do you say to that parent?
I've recently had these conversations because this kid who just went to boot camp, he's on his way to Buds. I know his parents, I know him, and have had a lot of conversations, right? From the mom perspective, the dad perspective, and then the young kid who's off to Buds. And I just tried to paint the picture to the parents that, look, it's not all roses and it's not all right. There is a lot of side effects to this job. And here they are. Let me lay them out for you. And you may not like the sounds of a lot of them because your son's signing up to put his life on the line, right? He's not signing up to play an instrument in the band or do other things. He's signing up to be a Navy SEAL, which makes him a political tool to some degree. And that political tool is very much controlled by the political idiots in Washington, D.C., and you need to understand that correlation. And I think they at least understand it. Don't go into it blind thinking that, well, there's a whole bunch of checks and balances and, my son won't be sent into harm's way for some political agenda or otherwise. You can't say that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And we're seeing it recruiting wise. You're seeing it across the board. It's so tough and it's so disheartening and unnecessary. And you mentioned, we talked about common sense, and it's interesting that both George Marshall and Karl von Clausewitz identified common sense as one of the most important attributes of a battlefield leader. And yet we saw that almost completely lacking in the entire withdrawal process. And yeah, it's tough. It is tough to deal with. But man, let's end this on a good note. Let's see. Gosh, that's hard thinking about that sort of thing. Gosh,
I've got a good one for you. I told you about the crossing guard story, right? Did we talk about that on the last podcast?
I don't know. Remind me.
You would remember if I told you this. Okay, so right, I volunteer at the kids' school a couple years ago. I show up at the school. The school doesn't know my background. They just know I'm so-and-so's father. I'm the day to volunteer, right? They got this dad's program that comes into the school to volunteer. So I show up at the front desk early. I'm like, hey, I'm, so-and-so's dad here to, volunteer for the day. The little office ladies are really excited to see me. They're like, well, great. Can you go work the crossing guard this morning? And they have a stop sign for me and a reflective vest. And, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm overqualified for this, but it's going to be a really safe intersection. So I go out, I'm doing my thing. I got my stop sign. Cars are coming. People are walking. And this guy walks up and he's parked up the street, wherever he's parked. He's walking up and he's got a kid in each hand. He's walking up to the intersection. And I see he's wearing this hat that says SEAL Team 6 on it. Right. And it's one of these hats that clearly we don't have and clearly you buy on the internet. Uh-huh. So, okay. And I've seen enough of these guys to know this guy ain't looking like the type that we know. Yeah. So he walks in, I give him the nod, he goes in, drops his kids off. He comes back out. So now when he comes back out, I'm like, I'm going to let the traffic go so I can talk to this guy for a second. Uh-huh. So I look at him, I'm like, hey man, I like your hat. Were you in the teams? It's like, well, I was. Oh, no shit. I'm like, SEAL Team 6. Those are the guys that got bin Laden. You weren't a part of that, were you? And this guy, no shit, right? He looks around like people are looking for him or something. He looks at me. He's like, I was. Like, he was there. Right? He's like, I was on the mission. I'm like, so I just wait a second. I look at him. I don't break my stare. I'm like, oh shit. So was I. And I've got my reflective vest. I got my stop sign. He's standing there with his Team 6 hat on, and we're having a stare off at this school. I'm getting ready to take him out with my stop sign, kill him in front of the school. Anyway, we had a little conversation. He was probably very confused how the crossing guard was asking him what the name of the master chief was and which chalk he was on, 1 or 2, and a few mission details that he clearly couldn't answer. I then explained to him that I have way too many dead friends in my phone that would take utter massive offense to the fact that you're showing up with a SEAL hat on, trying to pretend like somebody you're not. And he better get the fuck out of there. So.
Man, that is crazy that people think that they can get away with that.
I couldn't make that story up. It's too classic. I've seen the guy twice more at the school, right, for events. He's never wearing the hat, and he won't make eye contact.
Oh, he won't make eye contact to you.
No,
he doesn't
I guarantee he's mad confused because he's like, who was that guy? That crossing guard. He knew all these details.
Like, this is a very safe school.
Yeah.
This school is putting in the effort. Like, yeah. Oh, that is so wild. That's so good. I got to put it in a book somehow, like as a fictionalized story. Traffic, get the little whistle in there, your road guard vest, come, here you go, stop sign. That's amazing. I mean, I still find it, I mean, it is interesting after Vietnam, especially when it, the stigma started to wear off and it became more popular to have been Army Special Forces in Vietnam. How many people started saying that they were Army Special Forces in Vietnam? But back then there's no internet yet. And I think some politicians did it. I think there was like a mayor of a town or something like that full on backstory. Had have been a lot easier to hide pre-internet, right? I think now internet, it's easier to vet or, vet guys. Yeah, but how's this guy thinking he's going to cross the street in Colorado with the hat? I mean, you're going to run into somebody at some point who's going to ask you about it, who's not going to buy your story. Even someone that wasn't in the teams that knows enough to ask what your buds class was or, who your swim buddy was or whatever else. And that's ballsy move. That's odd. I mean, it's odd. I think it's got to be, indicate something else. Anybody doing that type of behavior already chalks up as odd. Yeah. Right. And anybody who's going to pretend they're already weird to a certain level that puts them in a category. So, man, maybe he's listening to this right now. Maybe we can forgive him. And talk about all this forgiveness. Thanks, Jack. Yeah. Oh man, dude. Oh, that's wild. And gosh, we talked about the book. Book's coming out. We don't know the timeline because it's going to go through the review process. And next time you come on when the book comes out, we'll talk about how that process was and what they took out and see how they treated you. But aside from the book, which I can't wait to read, I can't wait to listen to the audio and see how that turns out with what you're going to do on that side. But other than that and working on the SEAL Team show and word of mouth speaking here and there, what are you looking forward to over the next few years? I've got some other side hustles that are less public. Just a hustle on other projects with good people. So looking forward to that. I'll just, continuing to find my balance. I did not have balance for a long time. I didn't. I knew full speed ahead, all in all the time. And that's how I got to the level that I did. And that was great. But then getting out, I'm like, okay, which direction do I run in that same all in all the time fashion? And there was nothing that filled me up the same way the teams did. And so, I've tried to find the balance in life. So I'm not just running full speed in any one direction. I enjoy slowing down. I enjoy spending time with family. I enjoy a lot of things that I didn't before. Yeah. And I have a lot of discussions with friends like you. We talk about how we're not reintegrating into civilian life because we were really never there. Right. We grew up, we went through college and we joined, right? College isn't civilian life. That's college. Right. Then we joined. So reintegrating into civilian life, I don't think we've ever been there to reintegrate to it, to have any idea of it. I think we integrate into civilian life.
And I think for me, as I've integrated into this world, it's been really about trying to find balance and that I did not have for a long time.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, we're recording this on October 2nd and it's snowing outside here in Park City. So we'll have to get you out, slap some planks on, and do a little skiing here, hopefully this winter. I got to finish book 7. So that's on my plate between now and the end of the year. So I'll be locking down on that. But got to get you out here again and hang out, and it'll be good to see you. It's good to see you here, though. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, because I know you don't do it often, and I sincerely appreciate it. And once again, it's just an excuse to catch up. So, it's fantastic,
brother. You know I love you. Do it for you. Thanks again. And I've got to give a shout out to the Ironclad guys. You know how photo conscious I am, etc., and shy. They've been great to work with through all this stuff. So I want to say thank you to that whole crew as well, because I know they help you produce this stuff and help you with a lot of the heavy lifting. And I couldn't say I'm more impressed with them. So thanks to that crew, please.
That is awesome, and that's a good hint for them to remember to blur your face out.
There you go.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, hey, take care. Thank you so much for everything. And hopefully I'll see you in person here soon.
Later, brother.
See you guys.
See ya. Welcome to the gear highlight portion of the Danger Close podcast. First off, thank you to Badass Workbench. That is Badass-Workbench. They made this for me, and this thing is so solid. Absolutely love it. Go and check them out, their website and the social channels. And Fort Knox safes. I am so pleased with the Fort Knox safe. I will be getting another one for sure. Absolutely love it. So check them out, website and social channels. And why is there a toy up here in the gear highlight section? Well, because it's Magnum's Ferrari and it's Playmobil, and this thing came out and they did such a clever cartoon graphic thing to promote it that I had to pick it up. So check it out. They find it on my Instagram, but also on the Playmobil Instagram. Very clever. So check that out, especially for Magnum fans. There are a couple treats in there in that video for you. What else here? All right. Podcast with Mark Owen. Just talked about the SIG P226 here, which is, I love this because I carried it on every single deployment and it just fits my hand so well. So absolutely love this. I think everyone should have one in their collection. So check that out. And Bravo Company. Look at this thing right here. This is awesome. And if you've read the novels, you know that Bravo Company rifles are featured prominently. And check what they did there. Look at that. Cross tomahawks right there. Dropped a little aim point on there for me. Love aim point. And look at that. So thoughtful. So thank you guys, Bravo Company. Need to add a sling to this, of course. Viking Tactics sling will go on here, and a light, and probably leave it like that. Some irons and maybe a magnifier, but that's probably what I will add to this right here. So Bravo Company, thank you guys so much. Sincerely appreciate this. I have quite a few of their rifles already, and they sent me this one. So thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Damn, I can't wait to give that thing a run. I'll have to head out to Thunder Ranch in Oregon and put this thing through the paces with Clint Smith. If you haven't been to Thunder Ranch, highly recommend you get out there. And Andrew Arabito, half-face blades. Look at that one. That is so sick. He made this for me, a few years ago now, but kind of hard to get these days. I think once they go up, I think a newsletter goes out or they drop on Instagram, but as soon as those things go up, they are gone quickly. So if you haven't picked one up, good luck. And Jocko, look at this. The Mulk Protein Cookie. I feel like I need to work out and get up at 3:30 a.m. if I'm going to treat myself to this. So that might happen after I finish book 7. So check it out. Jocko has so much going on and always inspiring. So thank you. Can't wait to chow down on that cookie. And you might be wondering what a big piece of luggage is doing. Actually, it's not that big. I think it's carry-on side, but Sterling Pacific right here. And I put them in the last novel in Only the Dead, and they read it and sent me this. So very cool, well-made case, kind of old school right here. Has the locks right there, super solid and very cool. So Sterling Pacific, check them out. Just type them in to Google and they will pop up at Sterling Pacific. They make, I think, 2 different sizes of this case. They look similar, just 2 different sizes. And lastly, this right here is a collaboration that I did with Ball and Buck. You can find it on my website, officialjackcarr.com. Click on shop in the upper right-hand corner, and you can check out. This is a limited edition run, cross tomahawks right there. Little long live the brotherhood right there. And there may be the Second Amendment hidden somewhere inside on what looks like washing instructions tag, but a little Second Amendment. I love those details. And that's it for today. Take care out there. Thank you for tuning in to the Danger Close podcast, an Ironclad original presented by Navy Federal Credit Union. To find out more about what Mark Owen has going on, you can try following him on Instagram at Mark Owen SEAL, and be sure to pick up his 2 books, No Easy Day and No Hero. You can follow me on the social channels at Jack Carr USA. Officialjackcarr.com is the website. Click on shop in the upper right-hand corner for the merch. And if you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. Until the next time, take care out there, stay safe, be strong, keep fighting.